Hi everybody, and welcome to another Expats Portugal video where it's our mission to help you find all the information that you need about moving or settling into Portugal really easily. Tonight we'll be highlighting the 5 things you must be aware of when buying property in Portugal with our team expert, Peter Van Noonen from the Portugal Company. For the past 3 years, Peter has become known to many of our members for his high level of knowledge and professionalism when it comes to understanding the real estate market here in Portugal. So please stay with us. If you are watching us for the first time, ensure you hit the subscribe button and the bell so you'll be notified every time we put up something new. Feel free to add comments in the section below as well, and we'll endeavour to get back to those questions as soon as we can. So for now, I'm happy to introduce the host of our show. Over to you, Carl.
Good evening. Thanks, Astrid. Good evening, everybody. And incidentally, Neil Poyton's here as well from Spartan FX, who will also be here this evening to answer any questions you have about currency exchange. And Neil's details are on the screen if you just want to talk to him, or PM him during the duration of the conversation this evening. Peter is here. Peter, good evening to you. Peter Van Noonen, the Portugal Company. How lovely to see you. Where are you in Portugal this evening? That's a lovely
background. Hello, Carl. Thanks for having me. I'm in Pedro Grande, which is half an hour south of Coimbra. So it's literally in the middle of Portugal.
Wonderful. And that is not a Zoom pseudo backdrop there. That is your real barn conversion.
This is, yeah, exactly. This is the real life background, so to say, in front of the wood burner. We are in our small farm in the mountains here in the middle of Portugal. And as you know, it can be a bit cold these days. But today it was really nice out there. But right now it's best to stay inside and have a good glass of wine. Right?
Portuguese wine and nice and cozy by the log burner there. Your salamander, as they call them here.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Can we have a very brief introduction to the work of the Portugal Company before we get underway with the 5 things to be aware of when buying property in Portugal, Peter?
All right. Well, we are the Portugal Company, and we are experts in buying property for our clients. So we are buyers advocates or buyers agents, if you want. And we are helping mostly foreign clients to buy property here in Portugal. We started this company in 2017, but we have a vast experience that goes back to, I don't know, maybe 20, 25 years ago when we started investing in property here in Portugal. I'm a Dutchman, as you might know, might see, might hear, whatever. And my partner, Alice, she's Portuguese, and together we know all the insights and all the details and all the secrets of the Portuguese real estate markets.
Fantastic. We have greetings from the Netherlands tonight, also from the Algarve. Paul never says it's raining there. I think it might have been today. It rains sometimes in the Algarve. Cascais as well. Anna, good evening to you. Barak is here. And hello from South Florida and Chicago as well. So thank you, everybody. Do get your questions into the chat, and I'll endeavor to round them up and ask all those sort of universally appealing questions to Peter this evening. And then, of course, after the recording, you can ask more personal questions as we hang out together after we close the recording. Peter, number 1 then, of the 5 things to be aware of when buying property in Portugal. Let's get underway.
All right. Well, number 1, and this is just an order. I mean, this is not the top number 1, but what we have done is pull together 5 points to be aware of, as is the title called, of course, when you are buying property here in Portugal. Well, number 1 then is indeed documentation and what we call due diligence. We hear a lot of stories, and sometimes it are horror stories from people that are buying property here in Portugal when it comes to gathering and collecting and making sure that all the documentation is complete. Whereas sometimes people think that might be kind of a non-issue because in the country where they are from, in the US or in Northern European countries, things are very well organized. Well, to be honest, not here in Portugal. Sometimes it can be very complicated to get all the documentation together, and many times people tend to do this on a very last-minute basis, just a a couple of days in front of the signing the final deed. But that's not what we do. What we do is really make sure that we, in a very early stage, preferably before you sign the promissory contract, get all the documentation in place. We work together with a lawyer, with a realtor, sometimes even with a realtor and a lawyer of the selling party or the selling agents, because this is where we can avoid big surprises. So that's really something you need to look into. And as most of potential buyers from abroad here in Portugal aren't well aware of the mentality, the bureaucracy, and also the language, of course, we help them with that. And yeah, for us, this is really a very important point here.
So dotting all the I's, crossing all the T's to make sure everything's in place in the buying process, and to not assume that it's like where you might have come from. That's quite important, isn't it? It can be very different to people's expectations here in Portugal.
Yeah, that last thing is really something people, and it also happens with myself here when I bought the first property together with Alice in 2005. I was really stunned and surprised by the way how things work. And of course, that's almost 20 years ago now. So things have changed for the better. Of course, they have. But still, it can be a big difference from buying property in Northern European countries or in the US. So that's why we really want to guide our clients through this part of the buying process, and also really to provide them with peace of mind on that part.
Superb. So it's worthwhile people managing their expectations, and you'll be right by their side to help them with that. Before we move on any further, and with that amazing experience of those near 20 years, Peter, even though you're in the heart of the Portuguese countryside, it won't have escaped your attention, this the new Portuguese government's approach to solving the housing crisis. And Daniel's going to be with us, of course, in the Dream Team webinar after this one at 9 o'clock. But I'd love to hear your expert view of what you think of the proposals. I mean, they're only proposals. We should make sure people know that it's at the proposal stage. But what did you think when you heard them coming out into the public domain here in Portugal?
Yeah, it was also there. It was a bit of a surprise, to be honest with you. And of course, we heard a lot of these things that were cooking already for a couple of months. But I think, yeah, what happens, I'm not saying all the time, but lots of times here in Portugal is because in 2008, let's be very honest, they introduced a package, so to say, of very beneficial, call it regulation for foreigners to invest and to come over to Portugal, right? That had a big impact on the housing markets. Although the impact was mainly big in cities like Lisbon and Porto, especially in the historic parts of these cities, and not so big in the rural areas or in the other areas outside these cities that I mentioned. So they were kind of created by well, of course, it was a previous government, and now kind of all of a sudden they want to, get rid of these regulations. So, yeah, to me, it's not really a proof of having a government in place that expresses a clear vision for the future. It's really, trying to how can I say, to put the fire to an end, or whatever you call it. And I don't think it's the best package of measures here. I would say there were more advantage regulations available.
So a bit of political firefighting and game playing, perhaps, and it remains to be seen, of course, how many of the proposals will come into being law. And there is, there are people discussing this as we speak. Not just the government. I think people who've also been shocked and surprised by some of the proposals. Well, thank you for your view on that, Peter. We also saying good evening. I missed this earlier on. Alison is in Texas. Portugal or bust. That sounds pretty serious, Alison. Let's move on to number 2 then, and that's all about the asking price, right? Oh no, the buying process. The buying process.
Yeah, the buying process. Also here, and I think I want to invite Alice here also a bit to talk a bit about this. But the buying process here in Portugal is is also completely different than in lots of other countries. And sometimes people think, okay, we've made an offer, so now we just sit and wait what the feedback will be of the current owners or their agents, and but we are almost there. But that's not the case here in Portugal. Most of the times, the viewings continue while there is an offer in place, and this can lead to a lot of stress because a lot of people think, hey, this is then a way to get a higher offer at the table instead of trying to negotiate seriously with us or with our clients. And we try to always avoid that, although that's really complicated because there are no rules or no laws about it. It's really depending on the owner and their agent, their realtor. So that's really something you need to take into account. And what we always want to do, and what Alice always is doing, is being the central point of communication between you as a potential buyer, the realtor that is representing the seller, of course, and sometimes also a lawyer, an engineer. So, Alice, what can you add to the buying process?
And that's why it's so reassuring, right, Alice, to have a Portuguese speaker in this particular part of the action.
Yes, it's very important to have, in my point of view, of course, but also being a Portuguese and understanding all the process and seeing what is happening on the market as well. It's very important to have a buyer's agent that can really help them to follow the process and to make it sure that before they start anything, even a promissory contract, that we make it sure that all documentation up front is correct and that people don't get stuck on being lots of months waiting for a final date.
Yes. Okay. Thank you for that. Great to see you. Thanks for being here tonight. I'm sure you'll continue to chip in. I think we're going to talk a little bit about price now, aren't we? And again, another place where people might have to manage their expectations and not expect it to be the same where they've come from.
Yeah, and indeed, Carl. So asking price. Lots of people ask us if asking prices in Portugal for real estate are realistic. And if there is, for example, a thing like a database that they can go to and have a reference of kind of the same apartment or the same farm, or depending whatever property you are looking for, just to compare things in the same neighborhood or in the same village, if it's in a more rural area. Well, there is kind of a database, and things are also here getting more transparent and more professional, but it's not really common yet. You will see these things more happening in Porto and in Lisbon, but even in some regions outside the cities, there aren't houses or plots of land registered. So it's really hard to say if or to get a reference price here. So back to the question, if prices are realistic, well, it all depends. I think there is also a lot of opportunism here. A lot of people think, okay, there is a lot of demand. There's a lot of foreign people wanting to move to Portugal. So let's just ask a bit more than we expect to get from them, right? And we only need one client. That's also a thing that we hear a lot. So I think apart from the big cities, there is a lot of opportunism, as I said, and there's a lot of room to negotiate. And yeah, there's a lot of things to win here.
So it's possible then that prices can be drawn out of thin air, and they may even have a little bit of a foreigner premium on them, and you'd be all over that. And with your experience, you'd know if that might be going on, and you could challenge it.
Yeah, exactly. We challenge it every day and always, because what we are looking at the price as it's if it was our own house to buy, right? So it's like, okay, if it's a bit too much, we would jump in and negotiate on our client's behalf, and that's also, let's be very honest, a part of our business model, because we also are paid for that, and we are happy to do so. And also here, Alice, with her Portuguese fighting mentality, can be of a big win here.
Yeah, and but also,
we hear more about that, Alice. What is this Porch? So on the one hand, everyone's really friendly, and they bung a little bit of a premium on the top for the foreigners, and there's also this Portuguese fighting mentality. What's that?
Okay, it's like this. I can tell you 2 or 3 things. First of all, there are some tips and tricks or keywords that they can convince the client. Plus, in Portugal, you still can find lots of people. Doesn't matter how much you have, but if they like you, they sell it to you, and maybe they have another buyer that can even ask he wants to give more. But it's not about money only. It's also about, okay, to who I sell or to who I will sell my property. And yeah, it's also a little bit emotional. And people, and especially in the central and old people, sometimes they prefer not to sell than to sell to someone that they don't appreciate. Regarding pricing, yes, what Peter was telling, it's true. Prices, people, they ask what they want, and it's up to us to bring the reality. And this is why you see it sometimes in lots of houses here that nobody, or they are really long to sell and nobody buy them because, and again, being not a Portuguese, you are coming from outside. They don't understand your language. They think, okay, maybe you can pay a little bit more.
Yeah, yeah, brilliant. And I mean, I really that's an amazing insight that you know, a Portuguese homeowner may prioritize the people and the human factor and want to pass their home on to somebody they like, which may come before price or other factors. So it's not such a good idea necessarily for the foreigner to try and impress with cash or hard-nosed business techniques. That might put the person right, in fact, the vendor right off.
Yes. And sometimes they can tell you, there are people, for example, that happens already, that I remember some stories that people, they come and they, I remember from a Dutch, by the way, he went to a farm in the Alentejo, and he told that he had all the land around, big land from an old man, and he came there and he told, I want to buy your land. He told, no, but it's not for sale. Yeah, but why? You only have couches here? He says, yes, it's for them. I want to stay with my, I will not sell it to you. And you know, it's depending the way.
Amazing.
It's a lot of things behind. First, you need to really understand who is the vendor.
Yes, yeah, and it's, I mean, I don't think I can underestimate or make this clear enough. It's so important, isn't it, to, I think, for the vendors and agents here to hear a Portuguese voice at the other end of the phone, making the inquiries. It's very important indeed, and that's of course what you bring into these relationships and communications with the sellers and with the real estate agents. Let's go into control of the process then. You've alluded to it in some ways already, you know, with your due diligence and how you manage the process, but tell us more about how you will control this on behalf of your client.
Yeah, so what we do, of course, we step in when people are reaching out to us to buy property on their behalf or helping to buy property with them. But we also sit down with people just to make sure that we get the full picture. And sometimes people need not only a home, they also need visas. They also need advice on healthcare, on schooling, on finances, or on fiscal matters. So that's what we really do. And I'm not saying that we are fiscalists or lawyers or engineers, but what we really do is tend to create a team that is helping the entire relocation process. So it's not only the home, and the home is really a central point of our business and of our work, but we also really want to be in control of the entire process. This is really important for us and for the clients, because then we know about timing. And of course, you started with a joke about the golden visa. That was all about investment and timing. Well, that one most probably is gone now, that visa, I mean. But right now we deal a lot with people that are aiming to get a D7 visa. So sometimes they don't want to buy right away. They first want to rent here in Portugal to make sure that they made a good decision. So that for us is really very relevant information to know and to really act upon. So we really can make sure that we get the right expertise and the right people on board to really manage and to control the entire process here.
Right. So it's a holistic approach for the client.
Yeah.
And you're looking at more than just buying a home for them. You're looking at the whole picture, the whole puzzle, if you like, and then holistic in the sense that you can draw together the other professionals where you're not the experts.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we do. We create a team, and again, we are not lawyers or school experts ourselves, not at all. But we know where we can get this expertise, and we just kind of fly or pull in the right people to the team, right?
Yeah,
that's what we do.
Sorry, Alice, go ahead.
About the process, you just told something about due diligence, correct?
Yes.
I must say 2 or 3 things only. I will always advise that before someone even puts an offer or signing a promissory contract, it's much better to have a due diligence on the documentation, because sometimes, and most of the time, the process in Portugal is completely different from the Netherlands or even from US.
Yeah.
People, they cannot think that when they come here, everything is at the notary at the day of the deed. No, the seller is the responsible to bring all documentation to the seller agent. And sometimes sellers agents, they promote properties without the due diligence before. And when they have an offer or even a promissory contract, then they start to check the documentation. And then they will see lots of things they are missing. And I can tell you the seller needs to combine, depending on the situation, but can be even 10 documents from different institutions.
And you're waiting for that as the buyer. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you make a promissory contract with 3 months and the seller you already pay the 10% and the seller cannot bring, or it's a correction that needs to be done, that needs to be registered. I don't want to go too much in detail, but are so many things behind that can harm the buyer, but for everything is a solution. The only thing is to know upfront, to know before you sign any document.
Thank you for emphasizing that. That's great. Now, there's some talk and questions about whether Portugal is realistic or expensive. I think that's one of your points here, isn't it, that you want to address?
Yeah.
The price of real estate in Portugal. Is Portugal expensive? I know that's very subjective. How long is a ball of string? And certainly there's a demand, isn't there? So that will be stimulating some inflation of pricing. But what's your general view on that, and then how to handle it for people?
Yeah, indeed. It's a question that comes up very, very often, Carl. And yeah, of course, people think Portugal might be cheap or inexpensive or whatever you call it. But I think it's yeah, it really depends on the region, on the city, and of course on the type of property that you're looking for. And on your budget, of course. We sometimes work with people that have a budget of 100,000 euros, and sometimes we work for people that have a multi-million dollar or euro budget. So yeah, what's cheap or what's expensive? I don't know. In our opinion, though, people should not choose Portugal for the pricing of the real estate. They just should come to Portugal because it's such an amazing country, right? That's what really counts. And looking at price is one thing, but people also really should look at things like quality of life, safety, the level of healthcare, and the climate, of course, is a big thing. The foods, the culture. So it's a package. It's kind of a package deal to keep it in business terms. But of course, price is one thing here. But I think people really should focus on on all these criteria, where price is just one of them.
One part of the formula, yeah. And so the word holistic comes to mind again with that. Dare you say whether Portugal? I know it's it's very subjective, as you've just said there. Whether Portugal is expensive, inexpensive. How are you seeing the future? I know it's crystal ball territory, but what's the feeling in your water?
Wow, yeah, I think we have got that question from you a couple of times now, Carl.
No, sorry.
No, it doesn't matter. I love it. It's. I really don't know, but I still think, and maybe it's a bit of my opportunism, but I still think prices and demand are going into are connected, and I think the demand of foreign people to move to Portugal or to invest in Portugal is still very high. Also, even with those new regulations from Mr. Costa, the government of Portugal, that might kick in the next couple of months, I think still prices will not decrease heavily, or they might have a little bit of a drop or something like that. Also, depending a bit, of course, on what's happening in the global economy here, which is not very favorable, to say the least, of course. But I think Portugal is a small country with a high demand of people looking to come over to relocate or to invest, to buy a family home or to buy their holiday house, to spend good time together here. So I think for the next couple of times, and of course, depending on this global economy criteria, prices will still be stable and go on.
Excellent. And no sign of let up, presumably then, an interest in your services. I mean, that's quite an indicator as well, isn't it? The interest in Portugal continues to grow and grow.
Yeah, definitely. We see, as I said, we started this business in 2017, and back then, also because of our move then from the Netherlands to Portugal, we got a lot of Dutch clients. Then came the French, of course, with the Brexit. A lot of Brits reached out. I don't know why, no clue. Right now, there are lots of Americans, Canadians, relatively quiet from the Russian side. So yeah, this is all kind of global dynamics as well. But still, I think Portugal, in this nice geographic location as we are in, is doing a great job in having quality of life at a very high level. And that makes a difference, right? You know it by
Absolutely. And that's, of course, your sixth point, really, isn't it? It's how important it is.
If somebody asked me to come up with 5 points, we always throw in one extra, right?
Yes.
No, but this is a joke, but it's also not a joke. I really think people should be very aware in a very positive way, of course, of the Portuguese people. And I can imagine if you're looking online and talking to us about housing and stuff like that, you might not be very focused on the Portuguese mentality. But hey, the main reason you should move to Portugal is its people, right? The Portuguese, they are lovely, caring, authentic people. And this is not me trying to sell more business, but it is. It's really one of the main things you should be aware of. And it's not my, well, it's also my personal opinion, of course, but
Really?
I think you can speak for, yes, really.
Clearly, though, isn't there? I mean, you Portuguese people are so great. You married one, fantastic.
Yeah,
not everyone could do that. Of course.
No.
Yeah, but you know this fighting mentality. Yeah, no, it's my personal opinion, and but also something that we hear back from 100% of the people we work with. They love Portuguese people.
Yeah,
and they should.
And the quality of life that the Portuguese people create, of course, of being here. That's wonderful. Thank you very much for those pointers. We're also getting greetings tonight from California, from Oregon as well, from Cotera in Portugal, Texas. Thank you, everybody, for your wonderful greetings coming in. Do let us know where you are. And, of course, get those questions in. Let's bring Neil in. Before we go to some of the questions from our audience here, let's bring Neil in, who I suspect might have a thing or two to say about moving the money around for buying the house when Peter and Alice find it for you.
Hi everyone. So I'm Neil Poison. Just a little bit of background. I'm one of the directors of Spartan FX, and we specialize in helping international clients move money overseas, generally for buying property, selling property, and essentially helping our clients get better exchange rates and lower transfer fees than using the bank. So I'd like to add to obviously the points made by Peter in terms of the important factors to look at when you're buying a property overseas. I believe when you're an international buyer, the currency side of the transfer can, make a huge impact on the overall cost, and timing of that exchange is a very important part of buying anywhere overseas. I mean, for an example, in the last year, we've seen the dollar to euro rate move over 10%. So obviously, when you're buying property for 100,000, 200,000, a 10% move can have a massive impact on the overall cost of doing that. So what we do is, as I say, one is specialize in helping our clients get better exchange rates and lower transfer fees. But we do a lot of work in terms of, helping our clients with the timing of those exchanges. And one of the very important things we feel is really talking to, whether it's a specialist like us, whether it's a different company, property specialist, is getting as much information as you can at a very early stage, because unfortunately the currency markets don't always put themselves in the perfect position when you're just about to buy your property. So by speaking to us or another specialist early, it may be that you buy your currency months in advance. You have the option of buying in advance and holding the currency. We have forward options where you can put down a deposit and hold a rate for a much larger amount, anything up to a year in advance. And it's really about trying to take advantage of when the market is in a good position and setting yourself up to be in the most favorable time to convert your funds, and obviously make the most of then buying your property in Portugal. As I say, these are very important things. There's lots of ways to do this, lots of different approaches, and I don't think there's one way of doing it that suits everyone. We have clients that are very risk averse and like to know where they stand in advance. Other clients like to gamble and see where the markets move. And it's really about finding the best solution for each and every one of our clients. But ultimately, this is a big part of the cost of buying overseas, and as I say, can have a massive influence on what you're buying and your budgets, and something you certainly, I think, should consider when looking at making a move overseas.
Well said. Thanks, Neil, for that. Mike T says, I wish I was aware of companies like Spartan prior to my purchases. I was really taken back by how much extra I spent because of the exchange rate. Ouch, says Mike there. So I think whether they're risk averse or if they like a bit of a gamble, one of the things that your clients have in common, I think, is they start talking to you sooner rather than later. And they stay in communication with you. So that's probably quite a universal theme, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's certainly, I think it gives us more opportunity to learn about our clients, what they're hoping to achieve. And, you know, we keep our clients updated on what's going on in the market, make them aware of opportunities that come up for them. And generally that means we help to save them more money by doing that. So, you know, I would always say talking to someone sooner rather than later is going to be better for you. I mean, one of the great things with our service to some degree, like opening an account with us is free of charge. You're not obligated to use us by any means once you've done that. We've had clients that sign up with us and maybe 3-6 months later decide it's not for them moving overseas for, you know, personal reasons or another reason. You're not bound by anything. Your account will just sit there dormant. But by having the account in place, it does give you more opportunities. It allows us to help you more, explain the process, let you understand it. We can do sort of test transfers with small amounts to get our clients comfortable with the process. And when you're moving, you know, for a lot of our clients, they're moving their life savings in a lot of these cases. And, you know, we ask a lot of trust of our clients when we're asking them to put their life savings in our hands. But you know, we're always there throughout this process. We do get to know our clients. We spend a lot of time with them explaining every step of this journey and hopefully making them feel at ease and comfortable when they, you know, come to make these very huge decisions and obviously making these big moves overseas. We're there every step of the way to help them.
That's great, Neil. And you get on first name terms and almost like friends and family speed dial, I think, with some of the people in this community. I think Paul will pipe up about that, about how friendly and easy to deal with you are as a company. So thanks, Neil, for that. I know that Barack wanted your details and somebody else in the chat has supplied them already. That's fantastic. Thank you, Jennifer, for doing that. That's very kind of you. But if you need any details at all, just shout out and we'll make sure you have the right connections this evening. And we've got a few questions now. Thanks, Neil, for the time being. Back to Peter and Alice then. This business of buying cash, Peter and Alice, and we said before, didn't we? I mean, one of the main things, and Alice found this amusing, and why Portuguese aren't very good at business, because they tend to go with people they like rather than necessarily the big money. But what if you do bowl up with cash? Is that influential in buying property here?
To be honest, as what I say, if a person, of course, in the terms of negotiation, it could help. Yeah. But I can tell you, depending on the seller, there are some that they don't get impressed because you have a box of money there. No, suitcase, yes. No, it's of course in the negotiation, it could help to get the price a little bit down, that we don't go for a mortgage that doesn't take too long. Yeah, only that.
You'd be faster than somebody with a mortgage to complete, wouldn't you, in a cash situation? But it's not as advantageous as people might think. Again, expectation management here, right?
Yes.
Yes. Suzanne, sorry I'm late. I was at an appointment. Not a problem, Suzanne. We found you a lovely property in central Portugal, and we've even organised the money transfer through Spartan for you as well. So no problem there. Good evening to you, Suzanne. And all the lovely feedback on the expatsportugal.com site as well that's there. Please add to that, if you will. Some lovely, lovely words and testimonials over there on expatsportugal.com. One thing I wanted to add, and please do get your questions in. Let's have more of these questions for Peter and Alice while we have them here, and Neil, of course. Look, Peter and Alice have gone sideways now. Let's see what happens. Oh, okay. There's a lot of capacity. We're talking of price and the expansion of prices, the rise of prices of property in Portugal. And you mentioned before, you know, where the databases are now forming, as you'd expect, will be in the capital and in Porto. But still, in the interior, in all the other towns and cities of Portugal, there is incredible capacity if people can open their minds a little bit more to living maybe somewhere else other than Lisbon or Porto. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's why we are here this week in the middle of Portugal, which is still very lovely, very authentic, and believe me or not, when we are having our friends from Lisbon over for long weekends, mostly they come in summertime, of course. Yeah, they love it, and they are still very surprised. Even the Portuguese with their rural areas, right? So imagine the foreigners. And as I said before, it's a small country. So, for example, tomorrow evening we need to be back in Lisbon for business as well. So it's an hour and a half drive. So, and we always make the joke between us. Okay, how many cars do we encounter this drive? Right? There's no traffic at all. It's just starting if you're entering a city like Porto, Coimbra, and Lisbon. But apart from these three cities, maybe a bit in Cascais, but the rest is just no traffic. It's lovely. Yeah. It's pure. It's nice.
And you see also, because when we came here 10 years ago, around almost 10 years, was almost nobody here. We were only we were the few of people coming from outside. If you go today or Monday to the market, it's more Dutch than Portuguese.
Really?
Everybody's really saying, Alice, we already have too much Dutch people here.
Right. Sorry, Peter.
Yes.
We need to move. We need to move. We need a buyer's agent, Carl.
Yeah, especially you see a big wave of young people moving from other countries, and especially also from the Netherlands, by the way, here in this region, with small children. They go to school. They start their life here. Amazing. They are moving from the big cities and from the crowd.
Yeah, I think the pandemic had some effect on that. People were re-evaluating how they wanted to live, right? And Portugal certainly has a lot of capacity and a great attraction for people who want to live a more sort of countrified life. Yeah, and some people do complain about the price of those motorways you talked about, but you do get them to yourself, don't you? It's the wonderful thing. You might pay a little bit more by using a toll road, but you basically get the motorway to yourself for hours on end.
Yeah, hey, so it's very inexpensive, right?
Yeah, that's right. If you work it out like that, absolutely.
Carl, can I throw in two more things here?
Of course you can.
Yeah, and it's not number 6 and 7 to be aware of, but just want to share two things here. We did a lot of work on recently on updating our websites, and we have pulled in there a new full overview, I should say, of a lot of new services and packages, because we got a lot of questions around that. So it's all there. It's at theportugalcompany.com. Please have a look and reach out to us if you need more detailed information. And we also would like to mention that we, since a couple of months, work together with Megan. Megan is from the US, and we met here in Portugal, of course, last summer. And Megan is helping us and assisting us big time with a lot of the American clients, and also doing a lot of our American marketing. She is based in the West Coast. So it's also very convenient for American people to communicate in their own time zone. And we helped
her to buy and to have here a house, and developing more things for the future for them and for some people that she knows.
Oh, terrific. So she's a satisfied customer and is now helping other Americans find you.
Yeah.
Great.
Exactly. That's it.
Excellent stuff. Okay. Yes, it's been a while since we've spoken. So is that everything with the new services and how you've broadened your appeal and what you do?
Yeah, we broke down a bit our service because what we normally do is what we call full service buyer support. So as I also explained a bit in the webinar, earlier in the webinar, I should say, is the full package, right? But what we also are doing now is helping people with pieces of it. And we've created, for example, a starters package for people that are not yet completely sure if it's the good and the right move to relocate or to invest here in Portugal. So that's why we created a starters package with what we think are the essentials of buying property in Portugal. So we really sit together with clients on. It can be online like tonight, but also in person when they are here in Portugal themselves. And it's a really kind of essential package with just a couple of things to look at, which we then further can expand with additional services. As I said, it's all laid out at the website at theportugalcompany.com, also with our fee structure. So please have a look and let us know if we can jump in there.
Very good. Very good. Excellent stuff. So for the people who are ready to go, you can help them. And for the Portugal curious, as I call them, you can help with that stage of interest as well. Superb. Excellent stuff. Portugalcompany.com. Let's take a couple of questions before we go to our closed session where people can be more comfortable asking more personal questions. Let's just start here with, thank you, Jennifer. In terms of being good guests in Portugal and adding value to the Portuguese economy, is it better to take out a second mortgage on a home in the US or to take out the mortgage in Portugal? I guess it helps the economy here if you get your
I think it's, to be honest, it's better to get the mortgage here.
Yeah.
Because what I heard from my clients, the interest rate here is still even lower than in US.
Yes.
And also you will have more guarantees that you have here. And also the fact that you will have a kind of evaluation of the house. The bank will go there. They will see you are buying a property and you know what is the evaluation taxation of the house. And I think I will always advise, if you buy it here, take the mortgage here.
Yeah, good advice. And that, on that matter of being a good guest in Portugal, that would, I think, tick that, Jennifer.
By the way, just to add to that point, Carl, it's also relatively easy to get a mortgage. Sometimes people think or might think it's really complicated to get a mortgage as a foreigner here in Portugal with a Portuguese bank. It's not. We are doing it a lot of times and helping people to get a mortgage with one of the major Portuguese banks. And as Alice is saying, it's really, I'm not saying it's easy, but it's relatively easier.
Yeah, and we can sometimes also negotiate a bit about, not too much about the rate, but some conditions. Yes.
Very good. And on the matter of rates, and it would appear, it's favourable this side of the water. Have the rises, however, in interest rates or predicted rise in interest rates affected things for you here? That was one of the questions that came in.
About
your clients, or has it affected things in the market and for your clients, the rising interest rate?
I mean, for the Portuguese people, it could be, but from our clients, normally the clients that we get, it's people, they are really interested to buy and they have cash to do it immediately. But most of the time I tell them, why you will pay immediately everything, take a bit of the mortgage and you are secure on what you are buying. And from the bank how much, imagine if something happened, it gives about your property.
Yeah. And you could use that money elsewhere, of course.
A reinvestment, by the way.
Yeah, very good. On this same matter of lending and loans, is it possible to apply, it says owner, is it possible to apply and get a loan approved before buying your property? So can you get that approval before you found the place, the dream home?
Yes. I normally help my clients to get a pre-approval. And when they really, they know that they want to buy something, let's first work on everything, get the pre-approval to make it sure how much the Portuguese bank can borrow for them. And from then finding the right house. Or the
Excellent.
right.
Okay, last question then, and then we'll take your question, I. Neumann, into the after recording section. But this is an interesting one. Denise was late too and wondered which area Peter was talking about. The area that we see that you in your lovely home there is Pedrógão Grande, right? That's Santarém still, isn't it, rather than Castelo Branco, or are you in Castelo Branco?
No, neither Santarém, neither Castelo Leiria.
Leiria, of course. Same as me. What was I thinking? Okay.
We are neighbors. Yeah.
We are, aren't we? I'm by the sea and we're both in Leiria.
Yeah.
And the other side of the river is Castelo Branco.
Okay, I've got you.
You have Pedrógão Grande and Pedrógão Pequeno. Pedrógão Grande is Leiria, Pedrógão Pequeno is Castelo Branco.
Fabulous. And just one final thing then, with all of these other areas that people might want to explore around Portugal, do you cover all of the country?
Yes, we do. We, as I said, we are now in central Portugal. Tomorrow we drive back to Lisbon because we are doing a project in Lisbon, and by the way, also one here. So yeah, it's the entire country, and it's relatively small. So we are happy to relocate ourselves to the Algarve, to the north, to everywhere. Yeah,
it's a horrible job, but somebody's got to do it.
Yeah, you know, it is
like it. We do what we
All right. Your website address one more time, please, and then we'll stop the recording.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Carl. It's theportugalcompany.com.
That's fabulous. Always great to talk to you. Let's leave it there for now, and let's take a few personal questions.